The first third of the subordinating conjunction to link the subordinate clause as a description to the main clause is the pronoun that. The speaker links the subordinate clause that has the trait as an adjective to the main clause with the pronoun that. From the perspective of the speaker, the subordinate clause conveys the additional description about the precedent to the listeners, which is from the statement of the main clause. From the perspective of the speaker describes the main intention in the main clause, and the main clause to convey the additional intention about a precedent in the main clause. One of the indications in the main clause is the object of the description in the subordinate clause. So, in this perspective, the indicative pronoun that is apprehensible to link the subordinate clause to the main clause from the perspective to substitute the fact that the subordinate clause deals with the experience, condition, or action about the precedent, which is little relevant to the original intention of the speaker, to state the sentence into the recognition of distance revealed by the indicative pronoun that. The indicative pronoun that is applied to indicate a subject or an object that is singular, does not participate in the conversation with the speaker, and exists far from the speaker. So the concept of the distance can be applied into the statement. The speaker states the main clause at first. One of the indications be described in the subordinate clause. The statement in the subordinate clause can be a little far from the original intention of the speaker. The pronoun that to link the subordinate clause that has the trait as an adjective to the main clause indicates every subject or object that is a person, not a person, or plural subject or object as the precedent of the main clause. The pronoun that is able to indicate every kind of subject or object as the pronoun that applied as a subordinating conjunction does not indicate the precedent selectively, because the pronoun that is able to set every indication stated ahead of the pronoun that in the main clause. The pronoun that can set an indication as a precedent, or the pronoun that can indicate plural precedent as a whole. So we can say that the pronoun that does not indicate a precedent or precedents, the speaker applies the pronoun that to indicate every indication stated ahead of the pronoun that in the main clause in the defining way. The pronoun that indicates the precedent that is stated right ahead of the pronoun that. So we can say that the pronoun that links the subordinate clause to the precedent in the defining way. There are 3 sentences. The first sentence is this: the bread that is one of my breakfast menus tastes delicious. The speaker indicates the subject of the intransitive verb in the main clause, taste, in the main clause with the precedent, the bread, to indicate a subject that is not a person, and the subordinate clause that is one of my breakfast menus to describe the condition of the present, the bread. The definition of the be verb is to describe the pronoun that indicates the same subject as the precedent in the main clause. The bread describes the subject with the condition. The pronoun that to indicate the same subject as the precedent, the bread, indicates the subject of the be verb is in the subordinate clause. From now on, we will study about the comparison of the sentences whose subordinate clause has the trait as a pronoun or an adjective linked by the pronoun that. A subordinate clause that is linked by the pronoun that can have the trait as an indication. The indicated subject or object in the subordinate clause is applied as a subject or an object in the main clause. That's what we studied previously. In this class, we study the pronoun that to describe the precedent in the main clause. The subordinate clause linked by the pronoun that has the trait as an adjective for the precedent. The difference between the two applications is whether the precedent is in the main clause or not. We can think like this: whether the subordinate clause linked by the pronoun that has the trait as an indication or a description. The first conference is this: that you drink water is good. The speaker applies the pronoun that to indicate the subordinate clause, you drink water, and link the subordinate clause to the main clause. The pronoun that indicates the entire subordinate clause, you drink water. The pronoun that and the subordinate clause, you drink water, is applied as the subject in the main clause. We can also see that there isn't the precedent described by the pronoun that. The second conference is this: the water that you drink is good. The speaker applies the pronoun that as a subordinating conjunction with the fact that the pronoun that indicates the same subject as the phrase of the noun, the water, in the main clause. The listeners can understand that the pronoun that indicates the same object as the precedent, the water, in the main clause. Then the subordinate clause linked by the pronoun that has the trait as a description, especially an adjective for the precedent, the water. The speaker indicates the subject of the be verb is in the main clause with the precedent, the water, and the subordinate clause that you drink to describe the precedent, the water, with the action indicated by the definition of the transitive verb drink. The speaker intends to describe the precedent, the water, as the subject in the main clause to receive the definition of the transitive verb drink from the subject, who are the listeners in the subordinate clause. The second sentence is this: I put some grains that come from a basket. The speaker indicates the object of the transitive verb put with the precedent some grains of the main clause and the subordinate clause that come from a basket to describe the precedent some grains with the action indicated by the definition of the intransitive verb come. The pronoun that indicates the objects that are not people. The pronoun that to indicate the same as the precedent some grains indicate the subject of the intransitive verb come. In the subordinate clause, the form of the intransitive verb come reveals that indicated by the pronoun that to indicate the same object as the precedent some grains, plural.